And it's always so like nonchalant and like calm. You know, the doctor's like, okay, well, let's just give it a push and see what happens. And you're like, oh shit, this is about to happen. You know, it's like, were you going to warn anybody?
Yeah. Like we got ass over there.
You haven't noticed that?
It's been a hot minute since we've done this. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a little while.
When was the last one that I was on? Is it something I said?
Yeah. That was your man flu.
My man, you don't want to catch the man flu, the man Rona. The man Rona.
Yeah. Well, a lot's happened, Alex, since you've been on the podcast. I had a baby.
Wait, you did?
Yeah, can you believe it? Did you know?
I didn't know.
Yeah, we had the baby, everybody. I'm trying to scroll through my dad joke calendar to get to her birthday right now to see what the dad joke is for her birthday. Ooh. So let's see how good it is. May 27th. Here we go. Pull it out here. It's a weekend. Well, no, it's not. It's a Thursday. Sometimes they have 2 jokes on them.
I'm not trying to cheat.
When there's 2 jokes, they're usually really bad.
So this has 2 jokes?
Yeah. I'll read them both. Don't worry. England doesn't have a kidney bank, but it does have a liver pool. That was pretty good. Here's the second one. I started a roofing business, but I keep losing money on projects. I think it's because I keep building them on the house. I don't get it.
Roofs get built on houses. But if something's on the house, you don't pay for it. So they're losing money.
Oh, building them on the house. Got it. Like, here's a drink at the bar. It's on the house. Mm-hmm. See? You had to get... I didn't get it. Yeah, that one was really bad.
I get the bad jokes and I don't get the good ones.
Yeah.
You gotta frame this thing, dude. We can't crumple it up.
I just crumbled
it
Hannah's
up.
birthday. Sorry, Hannah. Yeah, so had a baby.
Yeah.
On the 27th. What's today? Today's June 8th. So she's working on almost 2 weeks old. She'll be 2 weeks on Thursday. That's crazy to me.
Time's already flying by.
Oh my gosh. It is wild. The first week went like that. Now the second week is going just as fast. But it was a good experience.
Yeah. Walk everyone through. So how was your experience?
Yeah, and then I'll probably have Brandy on. We'll talk about her experience with her. But from my experience, everything was great. And even for her, it was great. It was like... It was
no complications.
No complications, scheduled induction. There were some people on Instagram that were like sending messages like, why would you induce and not just let it happen naturally? Well, there's like various reasons. One, there was no like complications or needing to induce necessarily. But from a logistical standpoint, it's way more practical to be able to schedule it because I got 2 other kids. I'm not trying to wake up at 3 a.m. with a water breaking and being like, and then trying to rush the other 2 kids to grandma and grandpa. And it's just like a scramble. It's like, okay, you guys can come in on Thursday. We'll induce her, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, it's easy. It's not stressful. There's no scrambling. It's perfectly safe. Like, no big deal. So
yeah, you went full term.
Full term. Yeah. It was like, they wouldn't induce you if you weren't full term, unless there was complications, but there was none. They were like, okay, well, you're 39 and a half weeks. Like, we can schedule this and like, you're ready, the baby's ready, you're like already 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. Like, we can schedule it if you want. And it's like, hell yeah, let's do this. So that's what we opted for. Got the kids packed up, got them to grandma and grandpa's. We headed to the hospital on that Wednesday night. So we got checked in. They wanted us to arrive at 8. We got in, we got checked in. By the time we got up to the room, it was probably close to 9 o'clock by the time because we have to go in through the ER that late at night and then they register, go through all that stuff. And then they start hooking up for all the monitors and they start checking for contractions and they're monitoring the baby's heartbeat and getting IVs all hooked up and, that kind of stuff. And then they call down to the pharmacy, they get the Pitocin up. So they plug that into the IV and they start dripping Pitocin, which induces the labor. And then it's like, it just takes a while for that stuff to kick in. So then probably 1A and then there's someone in there like every 30 minutes. Like here we were thinking, we were like, all right, cool. We'll get hooked up and we'll just kind of sleep through the night. And by morning they'll come in, they'll break the water, and we'll have a baby by midday, which is what's happened the last 2. Like the last 2 kids, Cameron and Kendall, were born at 1:40 and 1:41.
Oh, really?
It's like clockwork,
That's crazy. And Hannah was born at
3:01. So an hour, 20 minutes later or so. But the doctor was like, oh, let's shoot for 142 or 139. So anyways, there's someone in there like every 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Brandy's got to get up and pee. So I've got to like unhook all the monitors from the machine that starts beeping and alarms are going off. And I've figured out where the mute button was. So it's like boop, boop. And I shut that thing up.
Oh, yeah.
To the bathroom, plug her all back in. Of course, she's on the ice. So I got to like roll the IV cart too and unplug it. It's got batteries. So I'm like making sure it's charging when it's not. Oh my God. So I was up like it was like between her having to pee like every 5 minutes still.
Yeah.
And nurses and stuff coming in every 30 minutes. It was like,
I was surprised you guys did it at night when we had the twins. We went in that morning and started Pitocin, and it's just when you told me that you guys were doing it at night, I thought that was interesting. But
maybe it was just a scheduling thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what we've done the last 3 kids, and
you
know, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yep. So at any rate, they broke her water at like, I want to say it was like 10 a.m.
Yeah, I felt like you texted me at
Was that about that time?
10. Yeah.
It was about 10 a.m. And then they just kept checking her, and they were like, they came in one time like, oh, you're getting pretty close. You're probably like 8. Actually, I think she was expecting to come in and check her and be like 8 centimeters. She's like, oh no, you're like a solid 9, 10. Like you want to start pushing?
Yeah.
And the doctor's like, well, let me go check on something. I'll be back in a few minutes. It's like,
Because once you do it,
yeah. So she came back in, and it's always so like nonchalant and like calm. You know, the doctor's like, okay, well, let's just give it a push and see what happens. And you're like, oh shit, this is about to happen. And, like, you know, it's like, were you going to warn anybody?
Yeah.
like
it's like, I've already done about 17 of these today. Like,
yeah, it's great. Well, and we were the only ones there, so it was pretty chill.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Hilton Head Hospital is overly
it can
busy.
be. It can be.
Can it be?
Yeah.
It's never been
A
that
first-hand
busy.
experience.
Well, when you're popping them out like you, Alex, I mean, you could take up the whole floor. And we got hey, hold on. We got the big room too. Got the big room with like the real, like a more of a real bed. It was like a couch. Have you been in that room? I'm sure you've been in that room. The couch like flips over into almost a twin size bed versus like the chair that like folds out into a chair.
Yeah. A chair that's a chair, and then you try to put the cushions down to give you a little more support, but they're like the latex like stick to you, so then you put the sheet over and then everything just slides, and it's like you feel you're like on a slow avalanche all night. You're like constantly
slipping.
just slowly going, and you're like
chair is terrible. But I had to sleep on the chair the second night because the first night we were, you know, in labor, so we were in like a delivery room. We had that big bed, but then after that they put us in the postpartum room, or what do they call the
I think it's just a postpartum.
Whatever. They move you to another room after you have the baby.
That's the delivery room. Yeah.
And that had the shitty couch, chair, bed thing. That was awful. But whatever. It's not about me at that point.
Nope.
And
how was the first night?
On the bed?
No. You remember how you got a third child? No, it's like for me, even with only such little gaps in between having each kid, like those newborn squeaks and squeals and everything, it still was like, whoa, like,
the first night with
and
the
then
baby,
like for me, it was like 30 seconds later, you're like, yeah, okay, like, but I mean, you've had a little bit of separation.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the first time again because it's been 7.5 years. But
like,
let me
sound?
get to. I love the baby sounds. Like personally, like all the little squeaks and stuff. Like, I love it. I think it's awesome. Like and you know, it's like, you know, letting you know that everything's okay.
Oh, if they crying, they breathing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Hannah's got hiccups. Like she's had hiccups for months. Like in Brandy's stomach, she's constantly. A lot of it was like practice breathing. You know that they do kind of like just before they're like they start working those lungs and they got these hiccups going. This practice breathing they call it. And
I never knew it was called that. I thought it was just like
hiccups.
Basically like the indigestion that, you know, passed on.
Yeah, doctor said it was practice breathing, that they're starting to learn how to breathe, but they're like inhaling fluids.
Yeah,
you know, which freaks me out. I'm like, oh, they're drowning in there. I can't handle it. Kids in water and drowning freak me out.
Yeah.
Like makes me suffocate thinking about it. But yeah, hiccups, man. Every time you lay her on her back, like nonstop clockwork.
Really?
It's funny. Like after you feed her and burp her and then lay her down.
So I don't know. Did you guys put her like in the hospital? Is basically like
that little
clear
bassinet
tin
thing.
Like, they call it a bassinet, but it's just a clear
It's a clear tub.
It's a tub.
clear tub.
I put just a towel underneath it to give it a little bit of an incline, like 3 or 4 degrees.
Yeah.
When all my kids had a little bit of that,
that
seemed to help.
So
I even did that when we brought them into the crib, like underneath the crib. Obviously, you don't want anything in the crib.
Yeah,
and it was just enough to where, like, obviously they ain't going anywhere anyways. But under the mattress to give a little incline to it, and that seemed to help as well.
Cool. I'll keep that in mind. I'm
just
gonna try
like the
tonight.
reflux. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll try it.
Like
tonight.
obviously, you don't want a drastic incline, but just a
little.
Elevate
their head just a touch.
A little seemed to work for me. And
That's a good
again,
trick.
like I don't think it's going to cause any problems with circulation or anything else. So.
I can't imagine.
Just
yeah,
just a little bit.
It's a good trick. I'm gonna try it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you know.
It seemed
If
to
I'm
work.
up all night, I'll ask you to get me coffee in the morning.
Yeah, I can do that too. Because the first night with the twin, obviously not having no clue what's happening and all the sounds, and you're like, are they going to feed or are they not? And no one knows how to, she doesn't know how to nurse them, and you're like, are they
You're
getting
trying
fed?
to figure that stuff out.
The nurse came in and was like, oh, and I put him on the incline. I was like, wait, what's this little secret? What you're doing right here? She was like, oh yeah, to help with the reflux of it. I was like, it seemed to work.
Yeah. Well, so I want to go back to sort of the delivery stage of this whole thing. And you know how I am, and really a lot of the reason the company exists is because I'm so hands-on. I want to be there for the whole thing. Just about. No, but like I'm super helpful across the board. Like when they're prepping her for this stuff and they're getting her hooked up and they're whatever the case is, I'm like right there. I'm helping the nurses. I try not to be in the way, like I know when to step back and let them do their thing. There was a bad experience I'll tell you about in a second. But all the nurses were just like, oh my gosh, you're so helpful. And they kept telling Brandy like, oh, he's a keeper. Like they were like, no guys ever help.
10 years later, I hope she figured that out.
Yeah. They were like, this isn't normal for like guys don't usually help. The husbands don't usually help do anything. They sort of just show up and wait for everything to happen. Like, you're awesome. And that's always been the case. Every time I go, and it just pisses me off that here's your wife or the mother of your child, if you're not married, whatever, like going into labor to give birth, and you're just going to sit there and not be helpful and just like expect it to happen. And it's like, it's all about her at this point. Like, no one's coming in there to ask how you are, but like, and get used to it. Nobody cares about how you're feeling. It's all about mom. Your attention should be on mom. You should be helping whatever you can do. It just pisses me off that was the case. And I didn't feel like I was going so far out of my way to be helpful. It's just like what you do. You're like, let me help. Like, let me pick your legs up to get them back on it. Like whatever it is. And they were like, wow, this guy's amazing. I'm like, this is just what you should be doing. What do you mean this is amazing?
Like, I don't need a pat on the back. Get off your ass and help your wife. Hold the door open for grandma walking behind me. Like, you just hold the door open.
Yeah, you just be helpful. Get off your ass and take care of her. It's just so frustrating to me that there's that many lazy assholes that are just like, yeah, well, figure it out, deal with it. It's on you. It's like,
yeah, I've heard a lot of the stories, and then like even when they're like, oh, where's my food? It's like, go to the cafeteria and just get your food because.
No, DoorDash.
Fair enough. But the point just being is almost like, oh, you brought her food, where's mine? It's like, you got 2 legs.
Yeah. It's
down the hall.
There's a cafeteria, there's vending machines. The vending machines at the hospital are on point. They got like an ice cream vending machine with like ice cream bars in it and stuff. I didn't get any, but I knew it was there. It made me feel better. But I got like, here's what's really cool is like when you know everybody like I do, like I DoorDashed 5 Guys, and when it showed up, it was like, congrats, baby Hannah, and there was like napkins that had messages on from Natalie.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I didn't, usually you just get your food, but like this had personal messages on it because like, cool. I know everybody. And then we had DoorDash also from Healthy Habit. Brandy wanted Healthy Habit, so I ordered that. So like Andrew, there was a message.
I wouldn't
from
have
Andrea.
thought. Did you just meet them out at the lobby then?
Yeah, I just went downstairs to the lobby and picked it up.
How was it as strict on the COVID stuff this go around for you?
No, it really was. Like they were limited. You're limited to 3 visitors. So myself and then 2 other visitors. So like Brandy's mom and stuff. So that was a restriction. We had to wear masks in like the main parts of the hospital, but not in the room.
Yeah. Like the hallways,
and whatever else, lobbies, that kind of stuff. And then Brandy got a COVID test, which they lost. This is part of the bad experience. Let's get to it in a second. I never got a COVID test. They took my temperature, I think, when we checked in the previous night. But otherwise, like that was it. Like never a word about it. Until they were like, hey, did they do a COVID swab on you? She was like, yeah. She was like, can't find it. And they never, Carla, who's a rock star, she's awesome. She was like, let me see if I can track it down. Let me go see. Like,
yeah,
we thought they did. But when we checked in that night, the nurses that were there were not great. Like the IV they gave, they had to try 3 different times to give her an IV. The third
I'm not
one,
a big fan of the IVs.
The third one, they left in there, and she was just super uncomfortable the whole time. She's like, God, this is so uncomfortable. And like that was part of like being up all night, was because she was like you shouldn't have to like baby your arm that much. You know what I mean? So she was like, wouldn't move her arm and was doing weird things, couldn't get comfortable in the bed because she wouldn't move her arm. And I was like, well, let's have them fix. She's like, I don't want them poking me again. Like it hurt so bad. And it was obviously something wasn't right with it. I told her, I said, it shouldn't be on that uncomfortable. Initially, okay, but then you should get used to it and kind of forget that it's there. And so by the next morning, 7 a.m., switch out, blah, 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 new nurses. Carla's looking at this thing. She's like, and I told her she had been complaining about it. She's like, you want me to fix that? It looks like it's like jabbed into your arm and then taped down, like with pressure in, versus like it's supposed to be put in and then like sort of like pulled back out like an 1/8 inch or something and then tape it down. And it was like pushed in and taped down. So it was like constant pressure inwards, but then it wasn't all the way in the vein. It was like halfway out. And so Carla was like, I really think I can help make that. Like it's a terrible place for it anyways, because when you go to hold the baby later. So she put it in her hand, you know, and then looped it on the other side, on the top of the hand, so that you can use your hands and do things and whatever. And it went in no problem. And the next day, that IV spot, it's still all bruised up, all up and down her forearm. It's all bruised up and stuff. So she was sort of, so they screwed up the IV. They lost the COVID test. I mean, it was just and then the poor girl, she's like, oh, I'm a traveling nurse. This is my first week here. But I'm like, oh, Jesus. It was kind of,
just trying to do your
kind of a mess.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a struggle I've heard to just get
people working.
Yeah. But so Nico got his cast off just a few minutes ago.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But when you were talking about the IVs and they were like sticking him 3 times, I was like, you know, like the student, right, comes in first and it's like, it's one of those situations where like, I know they need to practice, but like until you master an adult, why don't you not try a kid, you know? But it's an awkward balance.
Let's not
and like
scar them for life.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to be a little more assertive in the future. But it just, if the needles go in wrong, it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you can just tell.
I'm trying to remember the last IV I had. Probably was when I broke my leg. If even then, I don't. It's certainly when I had surgery, but I don't even know if when I went to the ER. I don't think I did.
Probably not.
Like they gave me some sort of pain medicine and wrapped me up and sent me home
to get ready for.
And then I went to a specialist, which then took weeks to get in and all the stuff. They ended up re-breaking my leg to fix it and screw it back together. It was a mess. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy sometimes when they'll be like, all right, you're going to get the first available appointment's like a month from now. I'm like, I have a broken leg.
Yeah, this thing's going to heal before then.
Yeah, like how do we
hurry this I need
which
bones to be
by the way,
aligned.
Nico's bones are still like, I saw the x-ray and they're still like kind of cracked. So they got and his arm looks still apparently a little wonky. Doctor's like, no, like it'll, like as he grows, it will straighten back out. So
that's a good thing about being young, man. You can recover from that stuff pretty easily.
But so they only got a brace on it, so I don't like.
It's like a soft brace, kind of removable Velcro strap.
They're like, yeah, like just as long as he doesn't have his full weight laying out. I'm like, you mean every hour there's the full weight going down? Like,
yeah, have you met a 5-year-old?
Yeah. So anyways.
Oh man,
how was your checkout experience for the hospital? Because like, no matter what, it seems like whenever they go
forever.
it's like, all right, well, we'll be back in like 30 minutes. We'll do it, and like 3 hours later, you're like, hello, anyone?
So we got lucky, mostly. Like, I didn't realize this either. So the first time with Cameron, we were in there for like days, I felt like, but there was also like, we were young new parents, and apparently they don't want to send new parents home immediately because you're new parents and you're like 24, or whatever. And it's like, let's keep them here an extra day and make sure they got this under control before we send them home. Yeah. So that was
we'll make sure the baby's real stable.
Yeah. So we spent a couple of nights. It was like the check-in night and then 2 nights after the baby was born the first time around. And then with Kendall, Brandy had the flu while she was giving birth. And we had to stay a little bit longer because they wanted to like keep checking Kendall, make sure she wasn't sick and monitor her. So we were there forever. And then this time everything was smooth. Everything was perfectly fine. And they discharged just like 24 hours, like to the minute after Hannah was born. Like 3 o'clock came and they're like, hey, let's get you out of here because we got to go deliver another baby. So they're like, let's wrap up this stuff. Yeah. Let's do the final hearing test and whatever else and get you out of here. And they did that. And we were like, peace, we're out. So it was simple, thankfully, because they wanted to rush us out so they could go deliver another baby.
Gotcha.
So it was nice.
When we were in Charlotte with the twins, it was literally like,
that's right. I forgot.
Like they didn't, because we had to go to like a pharmacy to get like the medicine, like for her pain meds for the C-section stuff, but like kept dragging out. So, but they wouldn't issue another one because then they've already done the paperwork. So like turned out to just be a complete cluster. Getting home, she's like an hour and a half late on the pain meds, and if like once you start
declining,
try to play catch up on the pain meds, that's
dangerous.
She hasn't eaten anything because we thought we were going home at like noon, and now it's 2:30, and it was just. Oh, and then I got a flat tire. I went into the parking. I went to the parking deck and looked at the car, and it had a flat tire. I didn't realize it at the time. I hopped in the car because I was like, "We're going," and I'm about to drive kids for the first time in the car seat, and you're all doped up on Mountain Dew, and
it's a flat tire.
Oh, then it's a 4-way stop where I was going, and I went to go through because we had all stopped, and the one person oncoming didn't realize apparently there's a stop sign, just blew right through and almost T-boned me. I'm like, I'm about to drive kids for the first time, and this jabroni almost T-bones me at a 4-way stop because he just didn't stop.
Yeah.
So then I pull up to the awning and I hop out, and I'm like, let's get what's that? Flat tire. And I'd never changed a flat tire because we just got in the car. So I didn't know how to like all the cars now, it's not like you don't just hop under them and like unscrew the bolt. It's like you gotta like take off the place where the license plate is and then click your heels 3 times and get a special freaking screw. It's like, wait, just undo the tire like we did back when everything was normal. No. So like I'm trying to, I think I called you.
I think
I called you. I was like, how the hell do I actually get the tire out? I know how to change a tire, but I can't detach it because it's like a cable system and all this other stuff. Which once you do it the first time, once you do it the first time, you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. But
yeah, trying to figure it out for the first time. Brand new car
like, I'm in like the nice clothes because we were taking photos of bringing the kids home, and I'm like literally like underneath the car, like unscrewing it.
That sounds like such Alex's luck.
And again, like it taken us like 3 extra hours to get out of the hospital. So like we're all hungry. Her pain meds are going down. The kids need to like nurse again. So now it's like, what's happening? I'm underneath a car trying to unscrew a tire. I just almost got T-boned. Like, so anyways, we finally got home, and I think we recovered by about 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
But that was my first taking a kid home experience.
Isn't it funny the first time, like you're hyper alert and hyper aware and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for this child in the back.
Well, then, we hadn't slept and like that. I think we spent 3 nights at the hospital with the first ones, the twins with the C-section because they're so small in their blood sugar. But so it's like you get 3 nights of like hyper alert and doing all that. So again, like now you're like, I'm about to take kids for the first time. And
blood sugar, that was a thing that we did that they were sort of concerned about initially because we make big babies. Hannah was 8 pounds 13 ounces.
How long was she?
20 inches.
The photo, I was like, man, this is maybe like 23 inches and like 10 pounds. What's going
We just
on?
gave birth to a 2-month-old.
Go straight into size 2.
I mean, your kids are small, really small.
Yeah, like the twins were born at 4 pounds, like 13 and
literally
15 ounces.
like half the size.
Yeah. We finally got like over a 6-pounder with Thomas. And Anders, I think was.
He's a big boy. When I was at the house the other day,
he's about ready. He's about to walk. He's like turns 1 next week.
Oh yeah,
that Joker's already like, let's do this, Dad.
Let's go. So Hannah comes out, and one of the first things they want to do is check her blood sugar because I guess that's a concern with bigger babies. Yep. Same with the bilirubin. That I could go on and on about that, but bilirubin I guess is a concern on the big babies as well. I get all babies for that matter, but I guess more of a concern with big babies. So they monitor that stuff closely, and then it was like,
and so when they're pricking the foot I didn't realize that's what they were going to do. So with the twins, they had to keep pricking it. And so you got this purple foot just because they're all purple because they don't have the best circulation. It's like
a lot of red blood cells.
Yeah, you're like, is that foot gonna fall off? They're like, no, like it's.
And I think some of that is from the ink too. You know how they do hand and feet prints? I think some of that purple is from the ink. I realized.
I didn't even think about that. But even just, when they're a little bit, even a month or 2 old and you're holding them, you're like, oh my God, am I cutting off all this circulation? No, it's just, they got purple feet like that. But they kept sticking them. And then you like look down, it's like all black and blue. But I wasn't warned. So the first time they're like, oh yeah, let's just, I was like, wait, you just stabbed my child. But you're just beyond overprotective at that point.
Yeah. So they do the blood sugar thing. Yeah, they do the blood sugar thing, and it was a little bit low. So they were like, hey, we want to give the baby some formula to get this blood sugar back up because your milk hasn't come in, obviously, and she's still trying to learn how to nurse and all these different things. So Brandy was like, didn't want to do that, obviously, as like someone who wants to breastfeed. She's like, well, it's best for the baby, so that's what we need to do, whatever. So she drinks this. It was only a little bit. It was like maybe a cup, 2 ounces at most.
It's like a
it was just a little bit, but it was enough to get the blood sugar back up. They're like, okay, cool. And then the nurse, there was one particular nurse, and I don't know her name, thankfully, so I won't throw her under the bus. I'm sure she's not listening, but she was like, oh yeah, you're going to have to supplement. You're not going to be able to nurse this child. Like, you're going to have to supplement. You're not going to have enough milk and all this stuff. And Brandy's like, who the fuck are you to tell me I can't? Like, I've just nursed my other previous kid, no problem. Like, why? And she was just super negative about it, and it really upset Brandy. She's like in tears about it because she's like, why is this person telling me I can't do this?
Yeah. Like, let me fail for a few days here, and then when the baby needs it.
And then like, well, your milk hasn't come in. She's like, it's been like 9 hours. Of course my milk hasn't come in. Like, this is a 3 to 5 day process here. Mm-hmm. She was really upset about it. And I was pissed for her because here's it just isn't appropriate to tell.
Could you imagine if it was your she had successfully nursed 2 other kids, so she like.
Well, we had trouble with Cameron, and I think that was part of the reason.
Fumble through it, but eventually you got it
right.
But it's like, imagine that being your first kid, and someone just being like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna fail." They
did the same thing with Cameron. They were like trying to do all these different things because Cameron was having trouble latching, and it was your first time, so it's like even more difficult because everyone's trying to figure it out. And then so. She struggled a lot with nursing Cameron, and Cameron ended up drinking formula, I think more than anything, because they were just like so quick to just like, oh, this isn't for you. Like it was, and that I think that weighs in a lot on the way she feels currently because she's like, don't tell me I can't do this. Like I can do this, and I have done this, and there's no reason
what I want to do. And
this is so
if given the opportunity and you can do it, it's it's a natural way to give your kid the best.
About it though is like in the middle of the night, I can't feed the baby. Sorry.
So talk about the home life here, like especially on Thomas, the 4th edition. It was very much a just divide and conquer. It was like, okay, like your job, Emily, is to take care of Thomas, and I'll deal with the other 3. So thankfully, the other 3 were sleeping through the night, so like I got to sleep through the night. And so I just went to I was in the guest room, and she dealt with the baby, got up in the middle of the night, and did that whole process. So I had a lot more sleep than her, but like it's my job to just deal with the other three
ones.
kids
Yeah.
and do the whole 9 yards. Like, how have you guys kind of?
It's always been the
divide
same
and
thing for
conquer
us.
on
We've
that
always had a divide and conquer thing because I'm more of a night person and she's more of a morning person. So like even previously, it's like I tend to handle things at night and get the kids to bed and all this stuff. She's like, I'm exhausted. I've been doing this all day. Blah blah blah. And she's like, I'm gonna go lay down, and you can put the kids to bed or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And then she's usually up in the morning, like gets the kids up, and then I get up and she's taking them to school and whatever. But same thing here, it's no different. Sort of a divide and conquer. We're both very hands-on with the baby. She's feeding the baby, and then she usually passes her off to me, and I'm burping her and that kind of stuff, or putting her down, and swaddling her and that kind of stuff. And then I think the biggest challenge has been giving the baby the attention it needs to take care of her, giving Brandy the attention she needs to take care of her, because as you know, but a lot of people listening may not know, like after birth, there's a lot going on with mom in like those first few days home, where there's stuff leaking and there's not feeling good and there's stitches and there's a recovery.
All the hormones are still trying to balance out.
There's a recovery process.
I think it peaks around 2 weeks too.
What?
Again, just the hormone levels trying to balance back out.
I don't know anything about
peak of that.
Brandy does a very good job of like managing hormones. Like she's pretty good about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you just
emotional
grew a
for
human.
sure. Yeah, there's an emotional side of it in those, where they'll break down and be crying, and you'll be like, it's not that serious.
But again,
but
like
it's a lot going on.
I mean, a human just exited your body. And you had to have all the hormones to develop that baby, and then it's got to flush out of your system. It's like, I mean, this might be a horrible analogy, but I almost feel like it's someone who's like doing drugs. You know what I mean? Then all of a sudden you stop,
detox,
and then it's flushing out of your system, and your body goes kind of, what's happening?
Yeah,
except on a just
thing.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, well, there's a lot
amazing
going on
to watch
on a
happen,
chemical side, but then on the
ooh.
physical side and the recovery process, like if you have a C-section, and this might be sort of maybe not so great, but after a C-section, they usually kind of get everything out at that point, or do they still have some like leakages and stuff after the fact?
Yeah, there's just
Stuff
things
coming.
are just happening.
Yeah, so
it's just harder to you can't.
you
can only pick up the baby. You can't pick up other stuff. So like trying to just get up and be mobile is
it's hard.
Painful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's painful regardless.
So it's like those are some of the things that going into it for the first time, I wasn't really thinking about. Of like, oh, she's going to be sort of immobile. Even though Brandy's like, she can't sit still. I'm like, girl, stop. She's like, well, I just need to run downstairs and throw this in the dryer. I'm like, I can do stay in bed, stop moving around.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
But
good to get up and move.
It is, but it's like you don't need to be up and down these stairs after you just pushed a 9-pound child out of you. Like, let's recover for a minute.
Yeah. but it is it's just emotionally exhausting, physically exhausting, because with the twins, I had to be hands on because nursing them at the same time. Like I'd be asleep while she's nursing, and then she'd whack me, and I'd wake up and burp and do it and hand back. You know what I mean? And that was an adventure, and obviously different when it was just the one. It was divide and conquer, and but yeah, like you start to hit you come off that high. It's like the honeymoon phase, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap! I'm like, all right, this has been 2 weeks, and I've had I'm sleeping in hour increments here. And the one thing I didn't realize too with nursing, it's like if I remember this correctly, it's like when you start, that's like when the clock starts. So it's not like once they're done, then it's like a 3 hour window. It's like, no, like they need to eat every 3 hours. Well, the baby took an hour to nurse.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? 2 hours after you put that child down, if that's kind of the schedule you're on that side, you're back at it. You know what I mean?
It's like, it seems like it's this constant. You're like, how are you hungry again? And through
because their
stomach
is
is
like the size of like a quarter.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the number of diapers you're going through, like at first it's like so little, like in the hospital, first couple of days it's so few because I haven't really like ingested enough like food to be probably. There's like, what's the black tar poop called again?
Meconium.
Is that right? Whatever.
Which
you get some of that.
Funny story on that. Like I don't know if this was a story or someone like if this was like firsthand experience from a nurse, but they said that someone was in there and they were foreigners who were giving birth, and I don't remember where they were from, but they were like, oh, we want to name the kid Meconium. And they were like, no, like if you're gonna be in the U.S., like, well, I mean, unless it's a family name, like. So they just they like the name for whatever reason, and that's fine. But I was like, well, like I had to explain that to them. They're like, oh, didn't know that. But
that's funny.
Anyways, yeah, Meconium. That is one of those moments too where you're like, all right, like I've never been so like excited to have like oh, the baby just blew it out. You're like, wait, why am I getting super pumped about this? Be like, oh, like things are
working.
The gut is working.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you want those things to happen, but it is.
Well, and then you get home and they're feeding, whether it's bottle or whatever, but it's like they're just pooping like every 4 seconds. It's like last night I changed the diaper.
But it's not the like.
No, it's not nasty.
Yeah,
it's just like yellow, liquidy doo doo. Like
I thought we were going to go a whole episode without actually talking about poop.
Poop? No, we're talking about newborns. We're talking about poop. Okay, this is like the meat of the episode. We're just talking about some poop. Anyways,
I got some new songs for you. By the way.
Great! Can't wait to hear those. But I'm like, Brandy just finishes feeding her, and of course she's like, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna change that diaper. So she gets done. I change her diaper. I get her ready for bed. I like swaddle her. And I'm like wrapping a swaddle under her, and it's like, I'm like, fuck. Back to change a diaper. It's like didn't even last 30 seconds. I was like, back to it.
It was like 10 to 12 diapers a day typically.
Oh yeah, at least right now, if not more.
But yeah, changing those, you're like, this ain't nothing.
It's nothing. It's
but man, once they go to like real food, you're like,
oh yeah, it's no big deal. What's funny is the first couple of diapers when we brought her home, it was still some black tar, and the kids were like, oh, I want to, they wanted to help us, and I'm like, all right, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, and they're like, never mind, I don't want to help.
That stuff. I mean, that's just stuck on you.
Yeah, you're just wiping and wiping. Especially, never mind, I won't go there. Anyways, there was so you were talking about names and stuff. They screwed up Hannah's name on paperwork. I think it was those nurses that screwed up everything initially when they started writing. They were asking questions when we first got to the hospital, and anyway, so they screwed up something on Hannah's name. And then the doctor kept sending us back to the hospital every single day to check these bilirubin levels that weren't really crazy out of line. But I guess because she was a bigger baby, they have a tendency to be able to spike. So they wanted to monitor it. And they saw that they were going down, but they said they have a tendency to rebound and then immediately like spike
shoot
out of
up,
nowhere.
So if you don't.
So they wanted us to check it every single day. So for like 4 or 5 days, every single day we were going to the hospital. The first couple of days it was like Memorial Day weekend. So like the main entrance was closed. We had to go through the ER. So we check into the ER and they're like, okay, cool. You're good. Go on up to the lab. And they prick her heel. They get like 9 drops of blood in this little tube. And they're like, okay, we'll have results in 2 hours. The doctor will call you. And you're like, all right, cool. So in and out pretty quick. No big deal. Come Tuesday then, we have to go through the main entrance. We have like orders from the doctor for the lab. And it's a problem. They're like, oh, we were there for 3.5 hours probably while I tried to sort out like, well, her name is this, but it's in the system as this. And now she's got 2 different names in the system. And so we have to have the doctor resend the orders under the correct information. So, and it was like this whole thing. We're like, we just been here to like the last 3 days. They used Brandy's last name instead of Brody. So she's in there as 2 different last names and it's all screwed up. And
they think it's 2 different children.
It's all screwed up. Yeah. So, and nothing was ever filled out under the wrong name. It's like a nurse just wrote it down somewhere and like that's when it went through the system. It's all screwed up. So now we're trying to get the hospital to merge these accounts because she's in there as 2 different people with different, like all these lab tests and all this stuff. It's a mess,
just wait till
dude.
Billing comes back. They're going to try claiming that you didn't pay for this one child.
It's a mess, dude. It's a mess. So we were there for hours. And the people in the hospital were like pissed. They're calling the doctor's office like, can you please fax over the new information? We've got people here with a newborn. Like they need to just get in and out. We're in a busy like hospital waiting room with a newborn. Get them out of here, you know? And I was ready to leave. And I was like, I'm going to give him like 5 more minutes and I'm leaving and we'll just come back when we can.
Yeah.
This is, we don't need to be here anyways. This is stupid to be here for this, And they were like, oh, just got him. And we're like, finally.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because we went through the ER. It was like, nobody like, oh yeah, come on in. And then we go through the main entrance and they're like, well, hold on a minute. God, we just did this for like the last 3 days. Why is it a problem now?
I'm gonna go to the ER and just kind of scoot in.
Backdoor this. That was frustrating.
Yeah, there always seems to be a little bit of seems like with newborns, it doesn't like you go to the pediatricians for the first time and you're getting things set up, and whether you're tired or not, like there just always seems to be something that then gets heightened, and then hindsight, you're like
it gets blown out of proportion because you're like tired and frustrated. Even last night, I sort of not blew my lid, but like I got frustrated last night because Brandy's got like all these different swaddles, right? There's like this swaddle and the sleep sack this and all these different things, and like I'm kind of like a swaddle ninja, but I want to do it with just like a blanket. I want to turn this baby into a little glowworm burrito.
Yep.
I don't need some fancy thing with Velcro and zippers and all this crap that's like, this is stuck to this and I've got arms flailing. I'm trying to unvelcro this thing so that I'm like...
Which when you do those, like, which I get, we had the one that wasn't a Velcro, but it looks like one of those suits that, like, if you're in a mental hospital and they
like
don't want
a straight jacket.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking of like Houdini. I was what's the Houdini jacket? You know what I mean?
I call her Houdini. Yeah,
like you like put them in there and it's just like, are you breaking them? And they're like. Nope, that's exactly how you're supposed to do it. I'm like, but am I breaking them? Because I mean, it's like a straight. I mean, it's down and
really?
Man, oh yeah. Because like it looks like imagine a T.
Yep.
And then where like the ends come off of the top of the T is like another flat thing. So when you put them down lengthwise on like the length of the T, you put their like the extra fabric that comes out. It's like up and over and then under them. So you're like strapping them down on one arm, and then you do the same thing and strap them down the other, and then like they're in the T. Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's like Miracle something, and it's great. Like they can't move, and they're just a little burrito.
I shouldn't look up like children's straight jacket.
You might find it under if the company knows what dads are searching for keywords. Give me the straight jacket. You're like, yeah, I'll order another one.
Newborn straight jacket for sleeping.
Like. In a way, like I'd forgotten that you're like, oh no, like you yank their arm down and you do this. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm hurting this kid. But then you're like, oh yeah,
I can't put their arms like this.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I've like so you do almost like a
mummy,
like a mummy.
Yeah.
No, like I've got.
But every once in a while, Kendall was really bad about it too. She'll be like,
get that little hand out.
Yep. Slide a hand out of there.
Gosh, I forgot the name of it.
But I got pissed. So I'm trying to put the baby to sleep last night. This is after Brandy feeds her. She's chill. She's like drunk on some milk. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to change this diaper, put her to bed. I change her diaper. She's cool. She's happy. She's smiley. And like eyes are closed, but smiley. I'm like, all right, it's going to be easy. I get her and I start swallowing her up.
That was your first mistake.
And I'm like, God, now I got to change that
diaper.
Once
I think it's easy.
Yeah. So I go to change that second diaper. Then she's pissed. As soon as you peel the diaper off, pissed. I'm like, damn it. It's going to take forever to calm this baby back down. Quickly, I'm like, change this diaper, get it back on her. And I start trying to swaddle her back up in the stupid. It's not stupid. I don't want to anyways. I just get pissed off with all this Velcro and zippers, and she's screaming and flailing. And I'm trying to zipper a zipper, and Velcro stuck to things that shouldn't be stuck to. And so I'm like, can I just use a blanket? And Brandy's like, dude, we got to use this one. The mom group said it's good, And I'm like, I hate you're
blanket.
Not. Yeah, give me the damn thing, And so I'm like, I'm over it. So I pull it back off of her, and I throw it on the floor. I'm like, it was like midnight, I'm pissed off and sleep deprived, and I kind of blew up last night, which really wasn't. But then I wrapped her up the way I like to wrap her up, and she chilled.
It's
told you so.
It's interesting once things start to you can almost feel your blood pressure rising when it shouldn't. They're screaming and you want to just put the diaper on, and you're like, why am I I feel like I'm on, nerve. Why am I you're screaming. Like now you like, I don't even hear it. You're like, yeah, you're crying.
whatever.
Hold them up like an alligator and like doing like circles and like, you done yet? You done? Okay, now I'll put the diaper on. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, those first few times you're just like,
The
newborn, because too, like their legs are all bowed from being all curled up and stuff, and so you're like, I feel like I'm snapping like a chicken wing
and
here.
They're strong,
you know what I mean?
man. They're like when you're trying to dress them, that's the worst. You're like trying to put them in a onesie that's like got legs and closed feet on it or something, and their legs are all curled in, or their arms, and you're trying to get their arm through a sleeve hole, and they're like pulling in.
I don't understand why. Like I do, but like the sleeve holes, you're always like, there's a thumb that like starts to look like it's being disconnected and snap back, and you're like, wait, peel that one back to try to get their hands through it, and then like you can barely.
Yeah,
but I get it from the standpoint that like as they get a little older and they pull on it. When they if they use their thumb to like suck, to soothe or something, like you don't want it covered and then they're all sucking on it. So like I get it, but man, it's like, and they all to me have like I call it like the Abercrombie arms. Like I don't know if you've like, it always seemed like there's these you go into like Abercrombie back in when we were like 1995, right, when that was a thing. And it was always like you'd put something on, it'd be like, what jabroni is shaped this way? Because like all of my friends don't have like 10 feet of arm and like wear a small. Like this, like if you're that tall, like you're gonna still have like an extra large, but it's like extra large, like they all like came down to your hand. Yeah. Before that was a look. It was like, no, like let's have it like wear a normal.
So the sleeves
shirt.
were too long.
But I feel like that on kids is like, I was like, either my kids all just have short little arms, or like everyone's got these Abercrombie things. It's like made for apparently like a kid that's like 9 inches taller to have the 3 extra inches of arm length here, or does no one measure actual kids' arms and then make a size?
Sleeves are like hanging over
like
their
I
hands.
literally would roll them over like 4 times. I'm like, there's no way my kid is like that.
I don't mind it at this point. I think it's almost intentional for the newborns so that they're not scratching their face as much. Because some of them have that
you had the
lip.
fill over. No, I'm with you. But even at that, it's like all of them. Like I've never found.
This is
like,
a really big problem for you.
Oh, dude, it annoys the piss out of me. Like the only reason clothes fit Thomas is because they've been handed down. And we've washed them like 700 times. So they've finally shrunk to be like normal. It's like, that's it. We're going to come out with a clothing line for kids now. It's like the actual normal children line, not this Abercrombie arm model Mierda that is just like ridiculous. It is like, it is so annoying.
Best rants. It's hilarious.
It is so annoying. Well, I even do that to this day. You go into like a store and you're like, oh, let me put on this shirt, like, and it'll be like a button up or something. I'm like, what jabroni looks like this? No,
why is this going down to my knees?
Yeah, like the shirt is like in my knees, and then like I've got like the cuff length width of it is like over my arm, and I'm like, I am a normal shaped human being here, people. And there is a lot of normal shaped human beings out here. I'm not. This isn't Abby normal here. You know what I mean? You get the Young Frankenstein reference?
No. I don't know what you're talking about.
Fair enough. Someone listening will probably get the Abby normal. The guy puts a brain inside Frankenstein, and he thought it was abnormal was the guy's name. He's like, oh, it's Abby normal. It was like, oh, it's the brain that's abnormal. Anyways, Young Frankenstein, the guy from Willy Wonka, right? Like the original Willy Wonka dude. I think he was in it.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll take your word for it.
So, anyways. Like, it's just, what is happening here, people?
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, as I walk down the street and I'm like, or just friends of college and stuff, I'm like, we were all about
same size.
Or proportionally taller. You know what I mean? Your arm wasn't an extra 4 inches longer when you're like 10 feet tall. Like, it's just, who's designing these clothes? I don't know. They're designing them for the models that, I get on camera. You like need to look a certain way for the clothes. But
then mass production is
like then
different.
Make it for the actual people that actually wear the clothes.
Yeah. Back to baby clothes for a second.
Why are they all Abby normal cut?
Yeah. Well, are you familiar with the trick? When their legs are like crunched up and you're trying to put them in like some long onesie pant leg sleeve thing. Anyways, if you pinch their thighs, it makes their leg go straight. and then you can slide their foot through the little leg tube.
Yeah.
What do you call that? A sleeve? A pant leg?
A pant leg?
Leg tube?
Arm cylinders.
We're gonna put them through the arm cylinders and the leg tubes.
That's the arm cylinder.
So
Dad. He didn't know what a sleeve was. He was trying to say sleeve, and he said arm cylinders.
Arm cylinders. That is so going to be the diagram now when we come out with our children's line here. It'll be like
the leg tubes.
Here's the instructions. Here's the leg tubes and the arm cylinders. So a sleeve.
Yeah, well, when their legs are crunched up and you're trying to put these little long PJs on, if you pinch their thigh, it makes their leg go straight. And
but that is something that I wasn't prepared for initially, of just how seemingly bow-legged
oh my gosh,
and everything else is, which I get. You're cramped up in a
that's the
belly.
craziest thing, especially when you've got a giant baby come out and then 2 days later you're like, wait a minute, that was just in there. How did that fit there? This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Oh, it's
You're you must have been
oh yeah. Especially then with 2 in there.
What was crazy is I was holding her and I tried to bend her a little bit to see. I'm like, how did you
feet up? Oh yeah, it's pretty. I've the mother-in-law has witnessed where the whole sack and everything else has come out.
Oh really?
So the baby's still attached to the umbilical cord in the sack, floating around and stuff. And it's she's like, oh, it's so cool. And I mean, obviously, I was like,
no, thank you. I think I'm gonna barf in my mouth.
I was like, I
right
don't know
now.
if I'd want to see that, but I could see how that would be extremely cool from a medical stuff, completely safe. Because I mean, they've taken there's a kid that was taken out. They removed a tumor and put back into mom, and born 3 weeks later. And I was so that child was born twice, but to get rid of a tumor and stuff, and the baby was healthy and everything else. I was like, that is just amazing what they can do.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
But yeah, could you imagine the whole sack coming out, and then
No,
you're
I can't.
then you cut it open to take the baby out?
No, that's crazy.
Just floating around. All
That's insane.
Did you get to cut the umbilical?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part.
They
It feels like you're cutting through a finger.
yeah, like a rubber chicken.
Uh-huh.
We I didn't get to do the full experience, obviously, with being the C-section. It was we had one with a curtain window, because Em was like, I want to see these babies come out of me, and pulling and they do the little Da Vinci arms, diagram where they spread all their arms just screaming in purple, because they're just getting yanked at. It's amazing watching the doctor. All of a sudden you're like, what kind of cavity you're going in? Where are you going? The elbow's gone.
You think that's crazy?
Well, fair enough. But they pull the baby out. But of course, when they pull the baby out, then it's cut, clamp, and so I always got to basically cut off the remnants. They're like, you want to cut the umbilical cord? I'm like, it's kind of already been done. I'll do the symbolic, cutting here, but whatever. I just wanted them to be healthy and come on out. But
my experience is they've always pulled the baby out and they flip them over and pat them on the back and get them spitting stuff out, and they're sucking stuff out with the little ball.
It's amazing
thing.
how fast they move too there, because you're just
and while they're
just
doing
moving and
that
shaking.
someone else is clamping off the umbilical cord with the little plastic clampy thing, and then the doctor's like, here, you want to cut it? And
then you whipped out
scissor.
your knife and you go,
but yeah, and it's
oh yeah, it's I don't know, from fishing, with the squid.
mm-hmm.
It's that rubbery.
Yeah, it's a weird, and it depends on the area. This one I felt was a little easier and thinner than some of the ones in the past. I remember Cameron's I was had to chomp through it. It was pretty
Give you some dull scissors.
I don't know, but this one was a little thinner. It felt less like a finger. The first one was really chunky and was you could, anyways.
Yeah, you could almost hear it cutting
Yeah,
through.
yeah, it was pretty wild. But
It's just a wild experience.
it is. It's cool. But everyone's home and happy and healthy, and
how are the
noises.
As we wrap up here, how's the how the girls taking to
great.
big sister?
Cameron is an absolute rock star. She's so helpful. She's like, no, I'll go get it. What do you need? What do you need? She's they both want to hold the baby. Obviously, that was all they wanted to do for the first couple days. But then some of that newness wore off, and now they just go play in their room, and we're taking care of the baby. But then I'm making sure I'm stopping to give them attention or take them to the pool or do whatever.
Yeah.
Like Kendall has some jealousy issues for sure. She's like, in like the first couple of days, she had a couple meltdowns because no one was paying attention to her anymore. She's not the cutest one anymore. Like all that. I don't want to be the middle sister anymore. All that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, this is going to be a thing. For Cameron, she's always been the oldest. So that's nothing new. She's old enough to understand and be helpful. But Kendall's still young enough to be like, I want the attention. I'm the cute one. And then I called the baby like some of the same things I call Kendall.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like just princess. Like, hey, what's the matter, princess? Like, what are you doing? Why are you crying? You know? She's like, you called her princess. I'm like, oh God, here we go. I'm like, you can both be princesses.
Ooh.
Oh my God. Oh man, I really got like, I feel like I did something really bad in a past life and I got 3 girls to like pay me back for it. And it's like, here you go.
You called me prince. Yeah, and what's funny is like the twins are just now coming around to Anders.
Really?
Yeah, but they're like, oh, Thomas. And every time he wakes up, they give him hugs and do all this other stuff. And they're like, Anders. Just whack him. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Still having to like, hey, remember? They're like, yeah, I've got a brother named Thomas. I'm like, you also got one you've been around with for 3 years called Anders. They're like, yeah, him too. I'm like, damn.
I wonder if it's because he was so soon after. Like, I don't know. You think it's because when Anders was born, the twins were still so young and didn't full like versus Thomas. So they're a little older and it's more
probably
like, oh, our new brother versus like Anders was just kind of there and they were too young to really understand.
Probably something to that effect.
I'm sure. So interesting.
I keep thinking that my kids are just weird, but I literally just got the text because they went from taking the cast off Nico to then their like 5-year checkup for the twins. And we had some just questions on developmental stuff. And they're like, for better or worse, the doctor says our kids are perfectly healthy and normal. I was like, oh. The tantrum that the one kid was throwing last night didn't seem normal, but we'll guess.
Well, here's the thing.
Normal.
I mean, I think you have high expectations for certain things, to be completely honest. And I think a lot of times it's like you have to remind yourself, like, they're 5.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I do try to keep it in mind. I read something recently that really stuck with me. I was like, if I was like, hey, Beav, hand me that water, like it comes in, you recognize you hand me the water. If I'm like, hey, Max, hand me the water, like there's actually like a delay, like it's just a delay.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just gonna react more slowly or so it's like, hey, can you clean that up? You'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, no, like, can you stop focusing on whatever it is you're doing and do this? And like, it's kind of like a whole process for a kid and having the patience to kind of realize that like when I just say something and snap my fingers, they're not going to just magically stop doing it. They're not 14.
They have to think about it.
Like when they're 14 and I'm like, pick up your shoes and you don't, now we've got a problem.
Right.
Yeah, they being a little more patient.
It takes them a second to process that and be like, oh, that means I need to do X, Y, or Z.
So I've definitely kind of tried to be like a little bit more like, you don't need 3 warnings here on something, but like I'll be a little bit slower of like, hey, I need you to pick up your shoes and take them to the laundry room. Like Max, like shoes, laundry room. Can you go do that, please? Make sure he's like looking at me and like, then it's like, no, dude, like we've been sitting here for 15
right
seconds. Now we can move on. But just having that little bit of that patience. But now he, it was, I'm trying to even remember what it was. It was just, he just started freaking out about something. And it was just, and it was almost like Nico, hit him or something. And then he like, his eyes like went red. Like he was just saw blood and was like just whacking away. And it was like, what is happening? Like, and then like, it took him like 15 minutes to calm down. Then he snapped out of it and it was just like, oh, okay. Like, so when we go to bed and reading books, I'm like, what just, you literally were like, I couldn't even talk to him. Like nothing was processing.
Yeah.
So again, and
it's like a blackout state.
And he has more of those stages than any of the other kids. So like it was just one of those like, is that a normal developmental thing at 5 or not? So you just start to ask those questions and try to dissect, and they keep you on your toes and constantly. But yep, the doctor said they're normal.
For better or worse.
I was like, well, no, I'm very blessed in that regards. But yeah.
That's
Needless
funny.
to say, they yeah, just just can't. I wish I had more sleep.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. All right, well, we'll wrap it up. I think the parting words is, I think one message I want to leave with everybody is make sure that they document as much as they can around these kids, because they grow up so fast. And I've had the camera in Hannah's face and Brandy's face recently, and I don't intend to make like any public videos with a lot of that's just for our memories and keepsakes. And because the kids, like I know like Cameron and Kendall love to look back at the few pictures I have of them at some of those early like first weeks type of thing. And there's only probably like a handful. It was before I was like had camera gear. Like I can afford a nice camera back then. You know, it was like whatever iPhone 3 pictures I had that's like deteriorated at this point, even digitally, because it was so bad. It's like they just love seeing that stuff. And they were like, they always want to know like, what was it like this? Or what did I do then? So like I'm just documenting so much of it for Hannah, and like
Again, for personal consumption.
For me, like the dog, for example, like they all want to know how Hans reacted to them when they came home for the first time. So I like made sure that I got video of Hans reacting to the baby, so that she probably won't be around to even know who Hans was, because Hans is on his last legs, really. I mean, he's got maybe a year left or something.
Scares the bejesus out of me.
Oh yeah, he'll get up and move for sure. But at any rate, so just documenting that kind of stuff, because it's going to come and go, and then those first moments you only get once. Kind of things. And then they grow up so quick. Like it's already been 2 weeks, and like, man,
they change so fast,
so
in those
quickly.
First few months.
Hannah's cheeks were massive, and like she lost a good bit of weight initially, and I swear it was all on her face. Like it's like sucked down. And but then like several weeks go by, and suddenly like they're not a newborn anymore. So like, well, there goes those photo opportunities, or whatever you wanted to capture or document, keepsakes, whatever, family photos, like that's gone. So do the best you can to document stuff, because you only get it once and it goes fast. But cool. That's it. That's all I got. You got anything else? Rock and roll. You just need a nap now.
Oh yeah,
I need
was
lunch.
in a nap.
I'm so hungry.
Yeah, I was like, oh, is my stomach growling? Like, oh, how good is this microphone here?
Guys, thanks for listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, we really appreciate it. Make sure you leave likes, ratings, reviews, comments, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you in the next episode.